Hello and welcome. My name is Brian Kaplan. I'm editor of the Banker magazine, and we're looking at the World Payments Report 2013. Joined with me are Kevin Brown, who's the Global Head of Transaction Services Product International Banking for the Royal Bank of Scotland, Chris Hamilton, who's the Chief Executive Officer of the Australian Payments Clearing Association, and Jean-Louis Signardi, who's the Corporate Vice President, Chief Sales and Marketing Officer for Capgemini Financial Services Group. So John, if I could start with you, can you tell me in the latest report what are the main trends?
There are three key things that you'll find in the report. First, you will find that 2011 and 2012 will be strong growth with 8.8% and 8.5% successively, and with a 300 billion and 7 and 333 billion non-cash transaction overall. So that's the first key message. Strong growth 2011 and 2012. The second key message is that within the instruments, the cards remain the largest one. Debit card grew 15.8%, but the credit card grew more than 12%, which is a new thing. So in terms of instrument, this is a second one. And then I will add that the mobile payment and the e-payments continue to experience very, very strong growth with, as an example, the mobile growing, something like more than 58%. The third key takeaway of that is as this mobile and e-payment grow extremely fast with all new sorts of, virtual money, prepaid cards, and etc., there is a need for the entire ecosystem to put attention in correctly recording and taking into account the entire spectrum and the numbers of that, because it is becoming more and more important and somehow difficult to record and capture.
All right, well Kevin, maybe if I could come to you, and what implications does that black hole have from the regulatory side?
Well, it's quite interesting. I mean, Jean highlights the problem from a data analysis perspective so we can understand what's happening. One of the things that we're seeing is, particularly with the rapid innovation, particularly in the E&M payments, you're not seeing all of the transactions coming through the traditional routes. And that adds to the regulatory challenge around how the regulators look at these payments and manage the integrity of those. So for example, you've got some very big aggregators aggregating other people's payments, and you've got a layered impact. So I think that the challenge for regulators going forward is how do you unpick that layering to make sure that for consumers and businesses alike, there is the right level of protection in each of the layers.
Okay, all right, well we'll leave that problem for the regulators to solve. But in the meantime, obviously the World Payments Report has identified a number of key regulatory and industry initiatives, and quite a lot. So tell us how many and what sorts of things these cover.
Well, certainly the number's gone up, we're now moving towards the 40 number, but we're well into the mid-30s. And what we do in the report is look at how we categorise those in some of the key areas to understand the overlaps. And these aren't just the regulatory changes, they are the industry initiatives as well. And there's a big volume of change around the standardisation, but also some innovation as well. And that, I think, sort of generates some challenges to the banks and the infrastructure providers in terms of, with the volume of change, making sure that we have just got sufficient capacity and the number of weekends to make those changes successfully in a prudent fashion.
Okay, Chris, is that the sort of challenges that you're facing in Australia as well? There's just so much regulation, and it's really very difficult for banks and payment service providers to keep up with it.
No, absolutely. You've got to really be very careful these days to parcel out this stuff in manageable chunks, because financial institutions have got their day jobs as well. They are trying to win customers, do business for those customers. What we're asking them to do is systemic innovation, is to work together to build up the underlying infrastructure that everybody relies on. Absolutely necessary, but not what's at the top of mind if you're focused on customers. So the challenge is, how do you do that in a sensibly structured agenda that gets the job done without creating huge disruption?
Okay, well let's focus on that idea of customer-centric innovation, okay? Because the report talks a lot about innovation. and obviously you want to do it for the benefit of the customers.
Yeah.
I mean, what are the areas that strike you as having the most potential?
Right. So the report has a good discussion about acquisition as a concept, the idea of where you get the payment from and what's the underlying economic activity. The opportunity there for financial institutions is very substantial. There are lots of opportunities to differentiate services, to add on new value adding, and thereby obviously offer a more profitable, more desired service. In Australia, for example, there's one of the leading financial institutions that has configured its merchant acquiring for cards in a tablet form, and then made the API available to people to build new apps on top of that and to provide a richer experience for the merchant. So that's the kind of thing that needs to be done to get into this sort of acquisition space.
Okay. John, I mean, let's go on with that in terms of innovation, and we're talking in the report a lot about payments acquisition. So what are the opportunities, and who are the real innovators in this kind of area?
Yeah, I said I think it's all this area is a huge potential for innovation, and we define in the report the innovation value hotspots. Right, we four key area where all the institutions could really innovate and then deliver new things and rewarding things for them to the market and client. So there is origination, acceptance and capture, there is security and fraud, and obviously value-added services, as it were say. So really four hotspots that any institution could really work on and then build on to really explore the potential of innovation in this acquiring and zone.
Okay, well, you can see that there's a huge amount of content in the World Payments Report 2013. And I've been talking with Kevin Brown, the Global Head of Transaction Services Product International Banking for the Royal Bank of Scotland, with Chris Hamilton, who's Chief Executive Officer of the Australian Payments Clearing Association, and Jean Lassignardi, the Corporate Vice President, Chief Sales and Marketing Officer for Capgemini Financial Services Group.